Welcome to the Business Spotlight podcast. My name is David Beeson. I am your host for today's conversation, and my guest today is Tom Staub, owner and CEO of Red Oak. We're going to be talking about his business, journey to business ownership, challenges, best practices, and share a peek of what it's really like to build and operate a business. Tom, welcome to the show. Thank you for being here today. I would love for you to give us a little bit of background of who you are and tell us a little bit about your business as well.
Absolutely, yeah. So Tom Staub, CEO of Red Oak Development Group. We're based here in Austin, Texas. We've been around really since 2010. Primarily what we do is real estate. Under the real estate umbrella, we have about 8,000 home sites that we're developing, planning for, and construction of all through Houston, Austin, Texas, San Antonio. Just shy of $1 billion of projects under management. Yeah, we've been around for a little bit, learned a few lessons, had a few successes. And yeah, primarily what we do is we create these complete communities around Texas. So what does that mean? We buy big chunks of land, 500 acres and above. We put schools into them. We put medical campuses. We build, obviously, lots for builders, commercial sites, and really everything that you would need to live in your everyday needs.
Awesome. Yeah, no, that's sick. As someone who's currently looking for a house with his wife, any recommendations with looking around
Yeah,
the Austin
absolutely.
area?
I'm frequently out on circuit. I mean, I just came back from Charleston on the new homes trends circuit with John Burns. I have one next Tuesday. I'm somewhat known as a trailblazing pioneer that's trying to change a lot of what we've seen for many decades. If you look really the last like 30 years, I mean it's been an issue for since really the 50s, but it's really become a main issue over the last 30 years where the uniqueness of communities have just gone away. It's really hard to find anything that's not like a McMansion, cookie cutter, whatever. In fact, I was just in a community down the street from my house over this past week, and I'm always curious to see what builders are doing. And these are really like two high quality builders. And I go into their homes, and they're 4,000 square feet, but man, the homes are just as crappy as the affordable home down the street. And it's like, what the hell is happening to craftsmanship? So, anyways, um, I think I think one of the biggest challenges is builders and developers are going to a commodity business, right? It's really hard to find a unique experience of living. And if you look at the trends, 54% of people don't have kids, right? They're willing to trade size for quality. They're willing to trade a big yard for a small yard if there's something like coffee shops in walkable distance or gyms or trails. And so that's what we're trying to develop. We're trying to develop real communities where people want to be outside and hang out with their neighbors. And so if I'm you, the hardest thing to find around Austin and really even Dallas and Houston is a place that is anything, you know, more than a home. And that's really hard to find. Um, and also too, like the home types that you'll probably look for are not going to be your traditional 3 bedroom, 2.5 baths, 2 car garage. It's going to be different. It might be cottages. It might be a live work unit with a commercial on the first floor. It might be a townhome. There's a lot of stuff that has to change, I think, in the market, and that's what we're all about.
Yeah, I currently live in a house up in the north side of Austin, and
Yeah,
the cookie cutterness is so true, man. Because I'm up here and we're in a 4 bedroom right now. We have a roommate, but the the house that we're in, the same house is right like two houses
yeah,
down. And
yeah.
also, I don't know if this is like something normal how y'all see it, but from my opinion, a lot of these houses aren't built super well either.
No,
Like there's so many like this house is probably only like 6 years old and we're having like piping issues and
yeah.
there's like drywall is like not totally
It's
done
incredible.
well.
It's Yeah, I mean, my dad was a carpenter, or is a carpenter, and we did a deal together in Ohio, and the house was built in 1904, and like you tear down the walls just to do some remodeling, and you see like just the quality of craftsmanship. I mean, if you go to any home that's $1 million or less, look at the corners of the ceilings, if they even have crown molding, you're going to see 1/4 inch gaps. You're going to see paint on the ceiling. I mean, it's unreal what consumers have been willing to accept as a okay home to buy at a high price.
Yeah. Yeah, like my the landlord that we have offered this house to me and my wife once our lease is up. And my wife's like, yeah, we should buy it because it's like the size of it. And I was like, no, this thing is gonna
Yeah.
like completely break down in the next 3 years.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, I will say if you're a home buyer, I do think there's a lot of deals right now to find with new homes. Builders are willing to pay down on the mortgage rates, something like $20,000 as credits towards your mortgage. So
Oh
it's
wow.
like there's definitely a lot of deals right now. And it's interesting, right? Because you look at headlines and everyone's spooked about buying homes, but that's when you want to buy, frankly, because that's when prices are kind of coming down. That's when there's more incentives. So if I'm you, I would start shopping and seeing what you can find for good deals.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you so much. Sorry to all the listeners. I just had to ask some
No, man,
personal questions.
I think they'll enjoy it too. You know?
Um, so going back to kind of like the business structure itself, I'm curious, for the audience, I always like to ask this question. What's the current ownership structure look like? Is it you, just you, or you sole founder? Do y'all have outside investors, a board, partner?
Yeah, you know, a little bit of all of it. So, primarily, I have majority ownership in all of our entities, affiliated, companies, what have you. We do have investors for the bulk of our projects, for the bulk of our companies. Red Oak itself is 100% owned by me. Um, and so, but beneath that umbrella, there's a lot of assets and a lot of LLCs. And so,
Mhm.
generally, our capital partners own a portion. I always have majority. Um, but yeah, we have, oh gosh, I don't know, 2 dozen LLCs. Too many.
Um, yeah, no, I get you, man. Yeah, no, that's super cool. I always like to ask that question, like I said, because I think there's most of the people who listen to this podcast are fellow business owners, or some people maybe just starting a business. So I always like to ask that question so that way they could see
Yeah, it's
all the different
interesting.
ways.
Early in my career, when I started companies, I've been starting companies for the last 20 years of my life. Um, Common mistakes is like be lean for as long as you can. There's no need to have, a chief operating officer and a chief marketing officer and chief accounting officer from day one. Like you can outsource a lot of those third party services until you really need to bring someone in to control, let's say, like all the finances or all the tax. But always, in my opinion, always stay lean until you really are bursting at the seams to bring in someone that's going to be very expensive and that's going to take equity in your project in your companies.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about what role you currently play in the business. What's your day to day look like?
Yeah, I mean, it's changed over the years. I'm lucky to have a small team, but a phenomenal top-notch team in our company. And again, we still use a lot of third-party consultants for whether it be legal or audit or tax or what have you, even hiring, frankly. So, um, my day-to-day has shifted. Obviously, I hit on every piece of the business, whether it be cash flow planning, whether it be our tax planning, whether it be legal. Um, but most of my day is going out, meeting with city councils, mayors, politicians, trying to get them to support what we're doing. So that's a big part of it. I'm meeting with consumers on the ground to build brand and get a sense of what's happening on the ground. I talk with a lot of capital almost every day. Big family offices, big debt funds, equity players. Um, I talk with builders a lot, and I'm constantly reading news to figure out where the heck is the puck going. I obsess over that. I mean, I work every day of the week, whether I want to or not. Most of my time is in reflection, trying to think about what's coming, how to manage risk, how to predict demand and supply over the next 12 months. And I think really any successful business owner has to be obsessed with markets because that's a driver of all demand. So that's my day to day.
Yeah, I interviewed a guy a couple weeks back, and he gave me some really cool insight where he said it's really hard to be a business owner if you're not obsessed with the market and the business itself.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, um, and God love everyone out there who lean this way, but the whole fire concept or passive income concepts, um, boy, I mean, do they exist? Sure. If you want the hard truth, I think you need to have at least $10 million of liquid capital to really achieve that. I think it's closer to 20 to 30 million. I mean, just do the math, right? If you want to achieve a 6% yield, I think like this is interesting. I don't know if I should even say this, but a quarter million, a half million bucks per year passive income net after taxes, right? Well, do the math. What does that end up being? It's $10 to $15 million of capital, liquid capital. put into something like muni bonds or something very passive. That's the only passive thing I've ever dealt with. Owning real estate, owning, mailbox money concepts like laundromats or vending machines. I'm just throwing out examples. Everything requires some work. And so I don't know why I was saying that exact ultimately, but yeah, the idea, of being passive and not an active owner every single day is just baloney. If
Yeah.
you want to hit it hard and hit it big in business, you got to grind. I mean, that's it.
Yeah, I agree completely. So this is one of my favorite questions to ask. Um, I assume that you're working crazy amount of hours since you said you work 7 days a week. So I'm curious, if I were to give you an extra 10 hours back each week, how would you invest those hours? Would it be more into the business, maybe some personal life, family time?
Yeah, I mean, look, at the end of the day, have your first fear of a foreclosure or bankruptcy. That'll make you really fat, or have a health scare. You get, I haven't had that, but I know for those out there who have had cancer or they get some sort of diagnosis, then it becomes very apparent what's most important, which is family, friends, and relationships. Obviously, health too, right? So that's always most important, in my opinion. Um, but assuming everything's going to plan and you just had an extra 10 hours, I would probably spend it reading and reflecting more and just really getting some space to consider, yeah, just deeper thoughts around what's important in the business, what's going to move the needle. Doing emails and tasks and legal documents, that's just day to day. If you're spending more time doing that, then boy, that's a problem. It's got to be things that really move the needle.
Yeah. Yeah. No, the health scare thing's real. I've been in entrepreneurship pretty much my whole life through my dad. My dad's owned a company and he had a health scare about 10 years ago. And then yeah, he kind of pulled back from the business a little bit just to take more time with family and things like that. So yeah, I've seen that like firsthand.
Yep. Yep, that's right.
So why'd you choose to go into business for yourself? I know you said that you've owned a couple different companies and stuff, but I'm curious why you chose to work for yourself rather than someone else, and what was that transition like for you?
Boy, great question. So, I had a pretty good career in corporate and private wealth, and I did all that. And it's interesting because, you know, for someone who's self-aware and has a little bit of confidence in themselves, trying to play corporate politics is like the worst thing on earth. I honestly just don't give a damn. So if I'm in corporate America and I have to like be careful about how I, don't offend this person or, don't upset the CEO, that's just not how I play. I'm transparent, straight shooter, and it's great for some people and it's really bad for many others. And so, um, it was easy for me to get to like, exec levels. It was really hard for me to stay and last there because if you have a bulldog that kind of steamrolls over people and is very opinionated like I am, which I think is important for companies to be successful, is you got to have the grit and tenacity to talk about tough things, but do it in a respectful, graceful manner. And if you can't do that, I mean, how do you talk about, oops, we're short on cash, for the next quarter, we have to fire people? Like tough conversations happen in business, and um, that was an obvious indication to me that I had to go do something on my own. And I'm sure many of you out there that are listening have the same idea. Is like you're probably a trailblazer, you're probably a pioneer, you're probably in somewhat quirky in your own way. That makes it really hard to fit under this, square buy box that corporations want of you. So, I would be so curious to hear from your audience how many of them had that exact same feeling.
Yeah, I mean, probably a lot. Sorry if you can hear my dog, by the way. She's going crazy out there.
Yep.
But yeah, no, I guarantee there's a lot of people like that. I'm kind of the same way where it's like it's hard for me to be a kiss ass sometimes.
Or just fit in. Like
Yeah,
not fit in, but like really fit into the yes man role.
yeah, I agree. So I'm curious, looking back on your journey so far, what has been the most memorable roadblock or hurdle you were challenged with as a business owner?
Oof. Um, yeah, it's a good question. I mean, gosh, stress is inevitable within owning a business. There's fire drills every day. Um, I recall one time, this is probably, oh, I don't know, 12, 14 years ago. I was doing a syndication where I bought a building, my first building I bought, and was rehabbing it. And I had all these contractors going in, and I was working at W2. I hadn't showered in 2 weeks because I tore out the one bathroom I had. I was in like a complete, like, not hazmat suit, but more or less like a, think of it as like a homemade hazmat suit with all the dust in the air. And, and there's just so much chaos where for a good 10 minutes, I was like paralyzed. And I think that was some version of a nervous breakdown, not like nervousness, but like stress overload where it's like you're in this tunnel and you just hear all the chaos and the drills going and like people calling you for payment. It's like, oh my God, this is crazy, And then I think at that point, it forced me to step back and say, you really have to be careful on how you manage stress and how you manage pressure. Um, and if you look at some statistics, the most successful people in business are the ones that tend to have high testosterone, from a male perspective, high testosterone and the ability to have low cortisol in high stress moments, right? So it is the ability to be that bulldog, sort of like, I am who I am. This is what I believe. And, but then also be able to remain really cool and collected in very intense times. And the latter part I've been focused on for the last 5 to 7 years. I have my sauna and cold plunge out back that I do at least 4 days a week. I'm very careful as to how to manage stress and not let it overtake me. Um, so aside from like how to run underwriting models or cash flow or think about things strategically, like X all that, I think the most important thing is knowing how to manage opportunity and stress within your business.
Yeah. Side note, kind of personal question for me with the cold plunge. Do you think it's worth it? Because I've thought about trying to invest in one at some point, but I
Yeah.
haven't. Is
Yeah.
it worth it, do you think?
It depends what you're trying to achieve. I mean, if you just look at data research, saunas are way more impactful than a cold plunge. Okay. Like that's the evidence is deep on that. And that's probably 5 to 7 grand for a quality sauna. Cold plunge has limited research. There is some benefits, no doubt. It gives you more energy, brown fat. I think if anything, it's more of a mental way to, when you're in, like, I go at 46 degrees, right, for 3 minutes. So when I'm in 46 degrees, I can't help but just think about how damn cold I am, right? So
Yeah.
like all the stresses of life, they have no room because you're just like, holy hell, this is cold. And you're just trying to control your breathing for 3 minutes. And then there's, the 2.5 times dopamine spike after for 30 minutes. Like, that's great. So I don't know if it's like a huge health changer, but I think for mental wellness, it's pretty awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, I use a sauna a lot at my gym because the gym that I go to has a sauna and I'll go in there for about 30 minutes after my workout. But yeah,
Yeah.
no cold plunge. So I've always been curious. I think you're the only person I've met that actually has a cold plunge. So I've always wanted to
Yeah.
ask because I've thought about getting one. So
Yeah, I mean, the sauna is my place where I read The Economist, I read books. It's, a place for reflection. So, in fact, years ago, I had this doctor that was like, I obviously health as well. So, I was like, how are my panels? She's like, well, everything's great, but your cortisol is crazy. You need your happy place. And I was like, all right, well, I can go tell my wife now. And I was able to build a little Zen den in my backyard. So that's now my place to relax and kind of focus.
yeah, yeah, that's nice. So I know we talked about it a little bit with like building homes and real estate and stuff, but who primarily does your business fully serve? Like if I were in the audience and how would I know I was a good fit for your product and service?
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, what I am providing to the world is truly, it's kind of cliche, but truly a complete community, right? Like I'm, I think about, and in a lot of our visioning process, I think about me living there. Like if I'm going to live there, what do I want? One of the things I want, I love coffee. I just had a whole bunch in front of you, but the idea of being able to walk 200 feet or less to a coffee shop, like I would pay more for that experience than to go and drive 10 minutes down the street for a Starbucks, right? So I think if you are someone who really appreciates the walkability of a community, the focus on not McMansions, but really a well-designed community that caters to someone who wants to get all the conveniences of life, whether it be the barbershop, the pet groomer, the school for your kiddos. Um, our one community has 20 miles of trails. Like if you want
Oh
that in
wow.
your life, then we're a good fit. If you want a $2 million custom home on 3 acres, that's not what we do. We build more true communities So I'm not catering to the ultra rich. I'm not catering to the high net worth. I'm catering to people who want lifestyle more than, size.
Awesome. Yeah. So I'm curious, how do you I guess like all the community stuff makes a lot of sense, but does that how does that shine against the competitors? Are there other competitors in the market that are doing similar things, or are they mostly just trying to go for the cookie cutter
I mean,
style?
there are some places like in Seattle and in the Northeast, in Oklahoma City. There's one called Wheeler District. Who, geez, if you want to look at someone who's taken a swing, what an awesome innovation there. Yeah, there's places in Pittsburgh. It's not common though. If you talk to a DR Horton, if you talk to your production builders, if you talk to most developers that are in their 60s and 70s, they think I'm crazy. They think, hey man, just go out there, build a little pool, don't invest in park space, just blow and go on the homes and make your money and get out. It's like, okay, well, geez, um, that's kind of depressing. So, in Austin, we are definitely one of the only ones doing what we're doing. There's no doubt about that. And I would even go as far as to say that bleeds into Dallas and Houston too. There are some developers that are that are doing a little bit of what we're doing, but not to the full commitment that we're doing. So, yeah, I mean, our competitors just do a different thing. If you want true commodity housing that looks like your neighbor 3 houses down, that's not us. If you want, now you might get a smaller home in our community, but it's going to be a lot more functional and it's going to live a lot more different. And you're going to know your neighbor. We measure our success differently than competitors, right? Competitors measure average sales price. They measure velocity of homes per month. Cool, that matters to us, but not to the consumer. We measure things like happiness index, dog park space per resident, community engagement, noise levels of our communities, safety. Like that's what matters to us because we think that's what matters to people. So
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's super cool. So what is one thing that you wish more people knew about your business?
how hard it was. I can tell you, I don't come from money. It's been a 20-year journey to get here. And I think people were just recognizing the success over the last 3 years. And it's like, oh my God, if you only knew what it's taken to get here. And also too, even when I talk to politicians, they just assume that like any developer, they're incredibly capitalized with tons of deep pockets. And that is true. We have a lot of access to capital and whatnot, but it doesn't mean that, it's not high risk and high stress. And I think there's this misconception really painted from past developers who've kind of tainted the pool that like this is an easy business. We all have grand slam profits. And that is definitely true if it goes well. But right now, for example, in a slow and sluggish market, cash conservation and like being really careful on who you partner with, it's so critical. So I think people need to understand that yes, there's success in our business, but there is challenges every day. And true success is being able to navigate those challenges every day for your investors and obviously for our end buyer.
Yeah. So, I'm always curious with marketing because I have a marketing background. I went to school for marketing and film, so I do a lot of like digital marketing in the Austin area. So I'm curious, what kind of different marketing strategies are y'all using?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at our communities now, I'll take an average one. So the one in Lockhart, it's called Moxie, moxieltx.com. But in that community, we'll spend about $5 million over 10 years on marketing. And
Oh wow.
that's for things like events. It's for things like obviously digital. It's for gifts when people buy homes. I mean, it's for all sorts of things, right? Um, so we do the whole array of marketing concepts in our business, video, you name it, everything. Um, Graphic design, website management, CRM, the whole nine. For our own business, we don't really do much. It's more like organic guerrilla style where we go to conferences, we do things like this where we try to promote this differentiated thinking in our industry. So it's a little bit different as how we market like this. It's more like we are the expert in this. Let us teach you how to do things better. Um, so yeah, but most of our marketing effort is on the actual community itself.
Yeah, yeah. I think that makes sense. I heard a quote from somebody one time where especially with like homes, a lot of the time they market themselves. A lot of the marketing that you need to do is mostly like photos, videos, just to get the word out there that the home is available for
Yeah.
purchase.
99% of people, and that's the actual statistic, they will go to the website, they will do all their online shopping before they even actually shop and come to your community. So they're already bought in on interest before they come to the community. And then yeah, at that point, the community vibe and the feel in the home sells. Um, so it is really important to your point to have the vision spelled out to make them feel what it's going to feel like to live there. Um, yeah, and by the way, most consumers today will visit 7 different homes before they buy one.
Oh
So
wow, I didn't know
it's
that.
important, yeah. So it's important that when they come to our community, there's a differentiator as to why they would buy there. And the reason that it's 7 is because, to your point earlier, there's 7 different communities that all feel the exact same. So it's like,
Yep.
what the hell do I do? They're all the same home. They're just different locations, so
Yeah. Yeah. I like the concept that y'all do about like like, coffee shop, park, like the real community
yeah,
feel. Cause I mean like even here, I mean like I wave to my neighbors, but I couldn't tell you any
their
of their
name or
names.
yeah,
Yeah. And I've been living here for a year and a half. So it's
yeah.
like
It's crazy.
um so yeah, I know you brought up a CRM, but do you have like any other ways that you guys track your leads or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, we have the leads from our websites and our digital platform via CRMs and whatnot. Um, but I have leads on investors. I have leads on, gosh, debt providers. I mean, on that side, no, we just track our leads mostly from the communities on a CRM.
Awesome. So moving from marketing to sales, what does your sales process look like? If I were to refer someone over to you, what can they expect to experience as you guide as you guide them on the choose to do business with you?
Yeah, well, again, on the community side, they just go to the website, they show interest in a home, and then it goes from there. It's pretty automated. Now, with me personally, um, I think I get a lot of inbound requests from business providers like, hey, let me talk to you about my service. And I also own an engineering firm. It's part of the business, and we have our own clients. And I can tell you that when my on our BD calls, when our engineers are trying to go out and sell our service, I tell them you can't just go ask someone to sit down so that you can sell them your service. That's a waste of time. Everyone's busy. There's got to be some value in that initial engagement, right? So one thing that we do is we bring developers off market land deals and say, hey, do you have any interest in this piece of property? No pressure, but we've done all the research. Here it is. Let us know, right? That's value. You're giving the developer an opportunity. So if you're just coming to me to say, hey, use my accounting services, like, well, what's the value right now that would make me engage with you in the next 30 minutes, right? So, and this is every day I get at least 1 to 3 in my LinkedIn inbox, and 99% I just kind of archive. But the ones that always gain traction are the ones that did some research on me. Um, and it's not someone from the Philippines with the name, Veronica, with a fake AI photo. Um, yeah, so just provide me some value so that I'm interested in actually talking. And I know that's selfish, but that's just the hard truth.
Yeah, no, I mean it makes sense, especially with like the rise of AI and chat
Yeah.
bots and all that crap.
Yep.
So, are you ready to transition to maybe a couple rapid fire questions?
Yeah, let's do it.
Awesome. What is the key to success for you?
Oh, um, working 10 times harder than everyone else.
Awesome. What is your one piece of advice for other business owners?
Go slow and be very intentional with every decision.
What is a book or podcast you're reading or listening to right now?
Oh man, of course you have to listen to All In. I have I read it now and again, but the book Grit is currently in my sauna.
Gotcha. What is that book? I'm curious.
What's her name? Angela. I think she's from Harvard. I forget where she's from. Maybe it's Penn. She more or less talks about how grit is one of the key variables in determining success. Is it like Angela Duckworth maybe? And she goes through all the different examples and different layers of grit and data backed why is proven that that is more important than, let's say, knowledge or skill. Skill and knowledge are important, but grit really is what it's all about: perseverance, resilience, getting through tough times to achieve the good times.
Gotcha. Yeah, I that question's always more for me. I hope the audience loves the question too, but the I always like to figure out books and stuff. I'm 25, so I'm on my business journey, like just starting. So
Oh yeah,
any books, I just absorb all the knowledge possible.
yeah. There's a ton. I mean, eventually you'll want to read Peter Drucker's gosh, The Effective Executive. It's a classic, but once you have some people under you and you're managing a team, that's really important. Yeah, I got a bunch over there. Yeah.
So this is kind of a fun question that I always like to ask. If you had a little bit of magic dust and you could choose one spot in your business to sprinkle it and it would all be perfect, where would it be and why?
Oh my gosh, to stop begging for equity. Oh my, we've raised about $35 million over the last 5 years, and it's not institutional. So it's all individuals that we're getting it from, and it's just a grind. So having a truly dedicated capital partner would be a godsend.
Awesome. Well, before we get to the final question of the day, would you like to share with the audience how they can follow you, learn more, contact you?
Yeah, I mean, obviously on LinkedIn, connect with me on LinkedIn, Tom Staub, Red Oak, website, redoakvc, like victorcharlie.com. And of course, if you want to look at one of our flagship communities, moxieltx.com. Moxie spelled Moxie.
Awesome. Well, we come to the final question of the day, and that is what is most inspiring to you today?
Most inspiring to me, I think it's really incredible when you have someone, no matter the walk of life, come to you and just be really inspired by what you're doing, and be super thankful for the change that you are. Um, that always gets me a little teary in the eyes. Like, man, these people really care and they really appreciate about what we're trying to achieve. Um, and of course, too, just seeing that my family are proud of me, like my immediate family, for how hard I work for them and everything else. So, um, that's the most inspiring thing for sure.
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome. Well, this was a great conversation. I really enjoyed getting to hear your story, so thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
Also, I just encourage all of you watching to save this show and come back and watch it again because Tom really did have some great insights for business. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel so that way you get notifications every time a new conversation drops, just like this one. Thanks to everyone who joined us today, and a special thanks to you, Tom, for being with us today. We really appreciate it.
Thanks.